PIC board has decided to put More on precautionary suspension with immediate effect following allegations of interference with the process of the Commission of Inquiry. Now, there have been reports that some staff members had been asked to account for the testimony they gave before the Commission. Let's get more on the story now and bring in SABC's Glorious Musi, who's covering the story for us. Hey, Glorious, thank you very much indeed for your time. Okay. Acting CEO at PIC Matshepo More has been suspended. Give us more details as to why.
Good morning, Blaine. Remember a few weeks ago at the Commission, there was someone that gave testimony, and in their testimony they mentioned that people that had come to give testimony here at the Commission were being held to account. We understand they were being called to the 7th floor. When they asked who is on the 7th floor, they said that's where the CFO and the acting CEO sits. We understand now that that's where the executive sits. That's where Matshepo More sits, and they apparently being called to account on what they were saying here at the Commission, and this raised concerns of intimidation and discouraging people from coming out to come and give testimony here. So Advocate Yanni Lube mentioned that they were looking into these allegations, and we understand over the weekend we heard that there was a board meeting last week on Wednesday. Now PIC wouldn't confirm this, but yesterday they came out to say, okay, the board met and deliberated on this matter, and Matshepo More has been suspended, put on precautionary suspension to ensure that there's no issues in terms of people coming here to testify, people coming to give their side of the story. And there were other questions that were raised. Remember with the IO technology deal where it ended up with 2 people from the listed equities being suspended, and questions were raised as to Matshepo More was the CFO at the time, and she had also played a part in this. She had signed off payment before the deal was approved, but she was still at work. She was acting CEO, and nothing had happened. And we were told that it was because the 2 that were suspended were not cooperating with the investigation. Blaine?
Yeah, you did some reporting, Gloria, saying that some staff members reportedly had to ask to account for testimony they gave before the Commission. Account to who?
It's alleged that they were asked to answer to what they were saying to the acting CEO, and that counted as interference with the work of the Commission, trying to get to the bottom of what had happened at the PIC, allegations of impropriety. We understand there's been serious allegations brought against More as well here at the Commission, allegations of intimidation of staff. We've had those kind of allegations of frustrating people to a point where they leave the organization. We understand that she had also played a part in some of these deals that have been investigated here at the Commission, but she was still in her job. But what's raised this concerns mostly these issues of intimidation is. The Commission is trying to get to the bottom of what is wrong at the PIC and correct the wrongs. But now if you have someone that now calls on people that are giving testimony to come and account for what they were saying, that goes against what the Commission is trying to achieve. We understand that's how now the board decided it's best if she is out of the way so that the Commission can continue with its job to get to the bottom of what's happening at the PIC and to correct the wrongs of what was happening at the PIC. Well, while that was happening at the PIC, yesterday was just quite a dramatic day for the PIC. The case that was at the North Gauteng High Court, where now IO Technology and the PIC had approached the court to try and set aside the compliance notice that was issued by the CIPC, was set aside yesterday. It was declared null and void and unlawful. So now what happens is the PIC continues now, issued a statement yesterday. They would not do interviews, but they issued a statement saying that despite this court decision setting aside the compliance notice, they had already taken steps to try and recoup the money that was invested in the IO technology. That was the 4.3 billion that the commission had that was done without following proper procedures. They said they would continue trying to recoup that money that was invested in that deal. Let me just take you through also other events here at the commission as that was happening outside the commission. We had testimony on the MST transaction. The MST transaction is the transaction that has been widely reported as having links to a woman that was alleged to be the former CEO, Dr. Dan Majila's girlfriend. Now, from what we understand is that MST took a loan from the PIC, 21 million rand loan, and the idea was they would reconstruct buses. We understand they are in the business of custom making buses for healthcare and educational purposes. Now they took this 21 million rand loan with under the idea that they would buy 7 new buses. But as time went, the PIC tried to follow up on where this is, this process of getting new buses is. They've seen only one bus. They have not seen any other bus. They tried to go to their premises to try and make sure that indeed the money was used for this purpose. But they've been given old buses. Information that has been given to them is old buses from around 2011 when this deal happened not long ago. We understand they are also not servicing the 21 million rand loan. They are not able to pay. Instead of paying that loan, they've gone back to the PIC. They've even requested more money, trying to restructure the loan. The PIC saying that because they have had such difficulty with this loan, they can't be sure that the money that the company took was actually used for the purpose that it was supposed to. And the fact that they are not cooperating with the PIC, they're not giving them financial statements, they are giving them the runarounds when they're looking for these properties that were supposed to have been bought. Now they're saying they could not extend the loan and give them another loan. They have taken legal action against them, issued default letters, even got lawyers to follow up on this and try to recoup that money. Another issue, Blaine, that came out of the commission yesterday was the VBS Mutual Bank. You remember that the PIC is a shareholder at VBS. It was a shareholder, given what has happened to the bank. It was a shareholder at the VBS, and they had seconded people there as board members, given that they had also invested at the Mutual Bank. Now, what happened is there was a rights issue given to shareholders to buy shares at a discount price, but somehow the PIC had no idea that was happening. As a result, their shareholding was diluted from about 25% to about 11%. Now, in the process of the PIC now complaining to the VBS to say what has happened, this has happened without our knowledge, and now the VBS trying to correct that, saying they could buy shares, giving them the rights to buy the shares now, to correct that. They found out there was a new shareholder, a majority shareholder, Vele Investments, that had now come out of nowhere to own about 53% of the bank. Now, another issue with the VBS Bank is a revolving credit facility that they had taken with the PIC, about 350 million, where they say that somehow this deal was approved. When it was approved, there were certain clauses that were not in the contract. Somehow these clauses found their way into the contract after the deal was approved. And these clauses that were put in were clauses that put the PIC at a disadvantage in terms of should something happen to the bank, they would now not have the same protection as they would have had in terms of getting their money back if those clauses were not put in this contract. Now the commission has heard that the legal department has called for the legal department to come and answer to this as to how did this happen and how did these clauses now find their way into this contract after it was approved. Blaine?
Yeah, comprehensive wrap of yesterday's highlights, Glorious. What can we expect today?
today, it's unfortunate that they do not tell us who would be taking the stand before they actually do appear. So the commission will commence now at about 10 o'clock. But unfortunately, we don't have much details as to now who will be taking the stand. But we can expect to hear more about this, the VBS Mutual Bank and what happened with the MST transaction as well. Lane?
The SABC's Glorious Safaka Muzi live for us in Pretoria. Glorious, thank you. All right, stick